Hello.
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 We're live on YouTube for right now. I will get started in a few minutes.
Okay.
Just setting up. YouTube used to give me problems, so I just put it on first.
Huh?
I said YouTube used to give me problems, that's why I put it on first.
Okay, all right, all right.
Welcome to Monday Night Chat.
Uh-oh.
Monday be Monday.
Yeah, beautiful Monday today.
I got like 1,000 devices going on right now.
Yeah, I got a few people tuning in that are
Nice,
my, I got about 55 people come tuning in.
nice. Appreciate it. So let me just we're gonna start at 8, but let me just introduce the segment to Instagram uh, and YouTube. So it's Monday night. It's Monday Night Chat with SK. I'm SK. And tonight we're going to be talking about mental health in the justice system. We're going to be talking about this conversation from arrest to incarceration and just how mental health plays out in our justice system, both uh, when it comes to individuals who experience in the justice system and just how it affects the community. I have an amazing guest tonight, my good friend Eliot Lopez. He's gonna engage in this conversation with me around this. People don't really realize that how mental health is really perpetuated in our system and not really supported in a way that breeds healthy people because we have decided based on if someone is incarcerated, whether they need help or not. We have decided that as a society. But the reality is, it's important for everyone to have good mental health, regardless of where they are, who they are, because it is what is how we built our society. Um, so we're gonna have this conversation. We usually start about 8 o'clock, but I just got us on live a little early. Just gonna wait a few minutes to get the conversation started as we continue to set up. But if you're tuning in, just continue to tune in. You can put in the chat, any questions you have about this topic, anything you want to add about this topic. We will be recording on Zoom as well, and we will be live on YouTube. Individuals who would like to see this segment after today, you will be able to go on my YouTube page. Just go on YouTube and look for Monday Night Chat with SK, or you can look up Shamona Kirkland and you will find it. But yeah, we're gonna have this conversation. For right now, I'm just gonna put on a little bit of music just to get us in the, you know, get some energy going until we get started at 8.
That guy looks familiar. Turn on the light.
Bust the vibe. Yeah, one time, tell me just how to feel. Living in, giving it to you, baby, come on. Never be down, we crossing the borderline. We're giving it to you, making you feel fine. Turn the heat up. Going down, make your body wild, baby. You pleasure was all mine. Keep my people, pleasure making the dance floor. Dance floor, let it step into your business and the floor. How we do it. Maybe your people just want to not to get busy because you know that we always hit your own. I'm wondering why you feel at the floor. Don't keep worried because we ready to blow. Because I always put your home on. Second, I'm a strategy child. I hope you find it keeping you moving. That's what we're doing, and you know we're gonna. Be on bill. Come on. Shit, really, let me get your way down, baby. Come on. Give me the sugar, but you put the while I deliver the shit that you can buy the liver. Always sound standing, we never leave it hanging. I'm always doing my thing. Don't go check it. Wow, I'm feeling that makes you want to go play your bad. What up? What hey, hey, hit you. Best believe it's gonna get you. Whatever you want. Here we go. We're already taking over the planet. Full blast, hitting the bucket rounds again, and you know we're gonna yeah. When I'm screaming out, yeah.
All right. Welcome to Monday Night Chat with SK. I'm SK. And again, tonight we're going to be having a conversation about mental health and the justice system. Tonight, my guest is Eliot Lopez, a great friend of mine and someone who I respect a lot in his story. And I respect his opinion. So I thought it would be great to have him on tonight to, talk with me about this conversation and really give an inside perspective about what I'm talking about tonight. So, Eliot, if you can just to give us your name again and just a little bit about yourself, share what you're up to now, what city and state you're coming from for the audience.
Well, my name is Eliot Lopez, of course. I'm currently employed by CCA, which stands for Center for Community Alternative. I'm a community engagement specialist. I actually roam the streets of Brooklyn, all of Brooklyn. I know that's where you're from, SK.
That's
but
right.
I'm taking over that. I'm taking over that borough right now. And I basically went to prison at the age of 19, and I served 30 years in prison. And ever since I've been out in society, despite facing certain stigma, I've continued to enhance my employment and enhance my way in being productive and positive in our community and also in society. And during my incarceration, I've seen a lot of mental health issues, and that's what we basically going to talk about.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Eliot. So, just to get the conversation started, as someone who has not had a lot of experience in the justice system, I had little bits and tips when I was a young woman, but I had not dealt with it personally. But my son's father was incarcerated for 7 years. And I had a bullseye view of the justice system when he went. He was a 16-year-old boy. We were pregnant with our child, and he had robbed somebody. And when he was taken into custody, he was then interrogated about a murder and then was put murder charges on him. Now, at the time, I was about 5 months pregnant with my son, And we hearing this information was horrible, right? Both because I couldn't believe it. And they always say like, oh, you family, you don't know what your family is doing. Everybody is innocent and all this and that. But something about the situation just didn't sit right with me. And it was horrible for my mental health. One, because I was pregnant, but seeing him in the courtroom when they were, putting the charges during the um initial hearing or the arraignment, I can see that he was too falling apart. His father went off in the precinct because he was a minor, and he felt that they had not given him his rights as a parent to be there when his son was questioned. And it was just a whole lot of stuff that the justice system was doing to us as a community, as a family, without any regards for our mental health, without any regards for our family, our rights, or anything. And people fail to realize that although you're looking at things that, okay, he committed a crime, we're still human beings. We still have rights. And fast forward, we found out that he did not commit that murder. He was actually incarcerated. He was actually got picked up in a drug sweep. This is the 90s. So, they was doing the drug sweep, they were doing stop and frisk. And he got picked up in a drug sweep, and he was actually incarcerated. They had not done any type of investigation to try to find this information out. They just decided that he was guilty and tried to charge him. But after pleading guilty to the robbery, well, they usually do try to get you to plea out so they can keep you. He pled out to the robbery, and during that time, he was on trial for the murder. And then, of course, when we found out the evidence that he was locked up, the charges were dropped. He stayed in jail for 7.5 because that's what he got to. And while in there, separated from family, 16, like this is a kid still, right? Although he was doing grown-up things, he was still a kid. And it was difficult. There were times when he was on the phone, like clearly emotionally distraught. He had got jumped by some correction officers at Rikers Island. They broke his jaw. And he was cut in the face twice in Sing Sing. So during this time, I'm hearing all these stories. During this time, like I said, I'm not in there, but I'm connected to him, and I'm hearing these stories. I'm having to go to the hospital, seeing him with wires, keeping his mouth together after his jaw was broken, and it did something to me. But I can see what it did to him. Right. Fast forward, we're now in 2024. He is now, recovering from drug and alcohol abuse, because he had never dealt with that unhealed trauma, right, of being incarcerated as a kid and not really, and basically growing up in incarceration. Um, and nobody really thinks about mental health, right? Like how that experience has affected you. You're bad. They go, oh, you're a bad person. You did that, so you deserve to be there. But whether I'm, guilty of a crime or not doesn't mean that I need to be abused and continuously taunted and traumatized while in that space. So now I'm going to bring it to you, Eliot. I've told a little bit about my connection to the justice system. Can you talk me through, you know, was there a time where anyone thought it was important to check in on your mental health?
Oh, not definitely. Department of Corrections, they don't correct nobody. So that name should be changed.
Mm,
I always call it Department of Confusion, because that's all they do is confuse, misdiagnose people, and sometimes they try to do more than they're not supposed to, and vice versa, or they ignore you as for your mental stability as well. Now, through my experiences, they try to give me medication, because I was being too outspoken. So when you challenge the system in the Department of Confusion and not Corrections,
mm-hmm,
they try to misdiagnose you. They try to throw you in SHU, which it stands for Special Housing Unit, where you actually confined for 23 hours a day, and sometimes for 24 hours a day in matter of weeks, because they don't give you the proper um, recreation it's supposed to give you. So they call what is called you burn. But anyway, so what they like doing is taking advantage of the person. However, if you are connected with families and friends, is a big difference. They teach you different. They don't try to misdiagnose you. They don't try to throw you in SHU. They don't try to throw you in RMU, which is basically a place where they keep people with unstable minds, as they say, and they try to put you in certain areas where they can isolate you from population, but also treat you a certain way. I mean, it's
Hmm.
it's just difficult at times on how they treat people. And I understand, like what you said, no matter what, you're still a human
We're on
being,
YouTube,
still a
Rachel.
person. You have family, you have this. But the Department of Corrections in New York, I don't know about other states, they just try to sweep everything under the rug no matter what. And they try to utilize everything as an assault. You know, if they pull you over and they tell you put your hand against the wall and you come off that wall, you're gonna get an ass whooping. Now they might throw you in the box and say, "Oh, this guy's, he's crazy. He needs medication. We need to calm him down." But yet the person is trying to speak his mind and try to look for help.
Hmm.
So, there's been times, many times. I mean, it's crazy.
I just feel like, from your story, and like I said, from my son's father's story, it just seemed like all of the practices to me perpetuate a mental health condition, right? Or perpetuate poor mental health, right? If you're, I'm not a correction officer or an officer in any form or fashion. When I think of human decency, like, being a human myself, me being in my bedroom for too long give me a little cabin fever, right? Now you're locking someone away from society, away from other people, away from human interaction for hours on end and expecting them to come out and not have any type of trauma, residual trauma from that, or be able to just, not have any fears or anxiety about being put back in there, right? Jail has its own stigma, right? Most people, either say I'm gonna go in because I'm a bad, I'm a handle it, but not realizing that so many people um, go in traumatized and then get further traumatized by the system, right? So if we're saying that, if you know that someone is not going to be there for the rest of their lives, right? They're not in there for eternity. Why then is it not important to maintain their mental health so that when they're back in society, back around their families, they can integrate back into to this society whole, at least, right? I'm not going to say unscathed at all, because that's pretty much impossible. But why further traumatize them in the I guess the hope or the theme or the expectation of trying to correct a behavior? Like I don't understand that logic. And Eliot, I've heard your story. I've heard many stories, right? Not just from you and my son's father, but just growing up in the urban community, which is where we're highly targeted. In the Black community where we're highly targeted, you hear these stories all the time. I don't think there's anyone in the world that doesn't know someone who's been incarcerated, right? And that's ridiculous. However, I've never heard anyone say like, "Yeah, it was a great experience for me. I really got better when I went there. I learned all my lessons, and you know what? I'm never gonna commit a crime again. You know what? It was the best experience of my life. I learned so much. No one's ever came out and said that. Most of the time, people come out tormented, frustrated. Um, so Eliot, you can you share with me, um, being someone that's now out of that environment, what are some things that in hindsight you think that could have been done differently?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna keep it on an eye, and I'm gonna speak on how my mental state was in there. And I'm not gonna sit here and say, "Oh, I never thought about not killing myself." I'd be full of crap if I was to say that, because anybody with a sane mind has been put in a cage that you cannot operate, you cannot move, you cannot get up and open on your own. You know, if you don't think about that, then something is definitely wrong with you, because you know. However, the way I kept myself, I call it sanitized. You know, I make my own words at times, but keep my sanity was a collective amount of friends that was always thinking positive, you know, and that kind of support that we have inside. And also me saying to myself, I gotta leave this place better than what I came in, you know, because they're not gonna do it. They're not gonna provide that. Or, you know, all they want to do is either give you medication or keep you isolated, or just throw you out to the wolves and say, well, he's a statistic. He's gonna come back. That's their mind frame. So when I've seen that throughout my incarceration, although soon as I soon as I went in there, I said I can't do this. You know, I definitely can't. I started educating myself in certain things. You know, I took certain courses, certain classes, and surround myself with individuals that was always thinking positive. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that I didn't get into stuff, because you are in a place where it's called a jungle, that you are gonna get into altercations with certain people, even with officers, even with staff or whatever. However, I try to maintain myself as positive as I can in order not to recidivize, because that's what they want from us. They want us to be a failure when we are released. They don't want us to come out here and run for borough president, or do this, or even make more money than them. No, the system is designed for you to fail. It's for you to make the system not fail you. You know,
Well, they want to see
and
how tough you are, right? Because you see how like you yourself, right? You were someone who, did your time and you came out and you showed them different, right? When I met you, I was very impressed by you. I don't care how many times you told your story, I was just like, yeah, yeah. So, Eliot, look how wonderful you are. You were amazing leader, and you don't you I mean, I don't know what your moments alone are like, but when you're in the presence of other people, you show leadership, right? And so that shows that no matter what they try to do to diminish you, to degrade you, to humiliate you, to try to take from you, you took it back, right? And we went on a journey together when as you were trying to build your life back up when you came home, and you have done an amazing job. You kind of, like, I feel like you surpassed me, and I've been here out here, and haven't even been in. Like, we're on the phone talking about promotions and career paths, and I'm just so proud of you, right? But you're
thank
like,
you.
I hate when people say this about me. They say you're an anomaly, right? I don't like that statement, because I feel like the amount of work it took to maintain that power, to maintain that strength, to get through adversity is not for everyone, right? So if that is the case, if we're so-called anomalies, our system, our society, our country has to get better at this, right? Because, like I said, if individuals are not staying incarcerated for the rest of their lives, they're coming home to make families. They're coming back home to their mamas. They're coming back home to their fathers. They're coming back home to their kids. Our society, they're amongst us. Why further traumatize them so that when they come home, they can't sustain? And then the trauma is now generationally passed on, right? Because now they can't connect to their children. They can't connect to their loved ones. They can't connect to society in a way that builds leadership or builds trust. So now we have this cycle going on, right? Because now you have the hurt leading the hurt. And, some people, upon unpopular opinion, some people, write people off that have been incarcerated. They, oh, no, we've all done things. Some of us done things that we just ain't get caught. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so if that is the case, why then am I less than, because you have decided to convict me of a crime, incarcerate me, and then take me and take me out into the world, right? And that's the part that pisses me off. Individuals come home, right? They did their time. You have said this is the valid amount of time that you need to serve because of the crime that you committed. I've now given you that time. I'm now home. I can't get a job. You tell me I can't go to
Yeah.
school. I can't get an education. I can't do any of these things. What am I supposed to do? If I'm hungry, I'm going to eat. Okay? nobody gets mad at what's those raccoons that go in the garbage can and steal, right? They're hungry. It's their natural habitat. But because I'm a human being, when it's convenient for you, you've chosen that my course of action to survive is a crime and I'm deemed unworthy. And
No,
then,
definitely.
yeah. So tell us a little bit about that experience of like coming home and being denied so much.
Oh no, the thing about that no matter how many times I got kicked down, whether it was 7, I got up that 8th time and said to myself, I'm not gonna let people defeat me. I'm not gonna let my stigma bring me down. I'm not gonna put myself in a position where that's what they want. That's what society wants. The that's what Department of Parole wants. They want us to basically fail. And the first thing they do is talk about when something is being done or crime is committed by somebody that's on parole. That's the first thing they talk about in the news. Mm-hmm. They haven't talked about 30 or 40 of us or 50 of us that have been out of society doing great, doing these things. You don't hear about any of that. You might hear about certain people that got exonerated that are doing great only because now they have to put they pictures up to show like, oh, we failed them, so now this is how we're going to repay them, which is bullcrap because they suffer just as much. It's like the Central Park 5. Right. They suffer a lot, and they were stigmatized even in prison because of what they was charged with. Those people suffered in there, and I know a few of them. However, no matter how many times I was turned down from a job, and I threw myself at certain jobs, and I basically said, listen, I'll work for this much, although I'm being underpaid, just to show you that I can do the job. But meanwhile, and I'm not saying this, here comes someone with a language barrier or somebody that's undocumented, and he takes $8 an hour, they're going to give him the job. We don't know what he did in that country to come over here. Right. But he's not being looked at. He's not being investigated. He just gets hired. For example, when I started working for a shredding company, and I told the guy that I'm gonna take the CRW training and I'm gonna be off on Mondays and Fridays, he said, well, I don't need you. But when I told him, okay, since you pay me $17 an hour, I'll take 10. He said, okay, I'll see you Tuesday. I never went back. Because that's what they look for. When it's convenient for them, they quick to hire you. When it's not convenient for them, they're quick to kick you to the curb, no matter what you have gone through. And now, if they know your background, they're gonna try to treat you like a prostitute. I swear to God, because that's what they try to do to me. And it's sad to say, but that's what they do. They don't care. All they care is about their money and their business, but they don't really care about you. Companies don't care about a person coming home and he has a bachelor's, he has a master's, he has this, he has that. They don't care. So what I had to face on a daily basis was, oh, I'm being denied because somebody else is better than me. Can you please tell me why that person is better than me then?
Right. And they don't even want to be transparent. Like, say what it is, right? So I can sue you. Right?
No, exactly. Now, here's the thing. In the 5 boroughs, they can't go back at 7 years.
Right.
And also, they cannot discriminate as far as your felony. But in Long Island, they can do that. Wait a minute. This is New York.
Right.
So what's the difference between Long Island and the 5 boroughs? It's still Long Island, New York. It's still, Nassau, New York.
The thing is, New York City is a beloved, right? Because New York City has a lot of people, has a large population, and you have people to advocate. Long Island is much smaller, and the population and the advocacy is much smaller. So you don't have enough people speaking up against this, right? You don't have enough people saying this is wrong, it's unconstitutional, and it's not fair, right? You want people to come home and make a living, so make a path for them to make that living, right? You don't want people to depend on the system. You embarrass them, you humiliate them, and you put them down when they depend on the system, but yet you don't give them opportunities to make it out on their own, right? You don't create a path for equality or equity. I'm not a fan of equality. I don't think that anything should be equal. I think equity is what we should go for, because the playing field is not the same for everyone, right? So, one of the things, I was actually just doing some peer specialist work around the injustice community, and I came across this video about step into the circle. And I literally cried, right? I literally cried looking at that video, because what we don't want to admit, what we are unwilling to admit, is that a lot of minority that are incarcerated is due to trauma experienced in our communities, in our homes, from children, from birth, right? From getting beat and told you ain't, excuse my language, shit, as a 4 or 5 year old, from someone beating you with sticks and brooms and continuously being hunted down by law enforcement your entire youth, from drugs being on every corner, liquor stores being on every block, and by unpopular opinion, religion contributes to some of that discourse, right? Not everybody's a true religious leader, right? So you have people using the Bible against you, telling you you're nothing, that you're nobody, you're a sinner, you're never going to amount to anything, right? So you have all these targets on you, have all these things telling you you're nothing. Why would you do something great? Why would you do something great when the expectation is that you're going to be nothing, right? Society tells you nothing. The news, the media tells you you're nothing. Your family, you're telling you you're nothing. And then you become a drug dealer and you make a lot of money and you wear fancy clothes and you look like something. People start liking you a little bit more. You're feeling good. Whether it's good energy or good attention or bad attention, you're getting it, right? For someone who's never been loved, that is the best thing they ever had. Women are falling on all of them. The homies want to be around them. So they're going to keep doing it, right? Maybe sometimes not even for the money, for the attention, right? And what society is unwilling to admit is that we create these environments. We perpetuate these environments for how we behave towards each other. One of my new points, one of my little slogans now is people don't people properly. We do not people properly. It's not only about parenting. People be like, oh, it starts at home. Parents parent how they were parented. If my parents whooped me, if my parents were neglectful, if my parents didn't give love, how do you think I'm going to go into parenting? I'm calling on the information I have from my parenting and now pushing it on to my children. Probably not in the same way. Some of us do learn and try to tweak it around a little bit, but the damage is there. The trauma is there. Definitely. I whooped my son until I went to a non-violent parenting class and I was taught how to use my words and how to, count to 10 and walk away and come back, But my mom didn't have that. My mom was like, you say something out of the way, you get in the smack down. You eat when I say you're going to eat. There was no autonomy. There was no self-agency. I was not taught about my body, because not only men get incarcerated, women get incarcerated too, right? We're all perpetuated by this system. We're all affected by this system. But I say it starts in our community. And then definitely our community goes into the justice system that says, you know what? You're nothing, and I'm going to treat you like nothing. Who they say, oh, well, you knew your rights. No, I didn't. I didn't know my rights. I didn't know you didn't have a right to arrest me. I didn't know you didn't have a right to put handcuffs on me. I didn't know anything about my rights. I didn't know you couldn't question me without my parents. I remember, I don't know if y'all remember truancy.
Yeah, the 90s. Vans.
Didn't go to school. They were locking you up. I'm a kid.
Yeah.
We're not going to school. Do you know what's in the school, sir? The school is a prison at that time, right? Where teachers didn't pay you no mind. You weren't learning anything. People were beating up on you. And so I don't know why we don't get that this affects mental health. I don't know why we don't understand that this system perpetuates mental health conditions. And they, I was reading something that said that folks were going in, and like you said, Eliot, there were times when you thought about taking your life, right? What about the guys that weren't, or individuals, and I'm gonna just put it on the guys. What about individuals that didn't have the resilience you had? I remember you told me a story about how you used to mentor people. Can you share a little bit about, one of those experiences where you mentored folks who, weren't doing it well, just weren't, in a good place.
Oh yeah. It's funny you said that because the movie just came out called Sing Sing.
Mm-hmm.
I was part of that program, which is called RTA, Rehabilitation Through the Arts, and it's up for Academy and everything awards. And a lot of my friends is on there. Gino Johnson, Adrian Velasquez. These are guys I did time with, and these are guys that are out there and are doing stuff in the community and doing stuff, many things constructively. And RTA was one of the best sanctuary you could have. And I say this to say this, and God forgive me, it was better than being in church.
Mm.
You know why? Because anybody who came there had to leave all their baggage outside that door.
Mm.
Everybody from grown men to guys that was in gangs to guys that was called so-called gangsters, because to me that's an understatement. That's a metaphor for bullshit. Put it like that, you know. And anybody who came into that program left there a different person, left there with a different mindset, left there with hope, as they say in the Academy Peer Specialist through Patricia Deegan, that if you give somebody hope and you give somebody that mental state and you give them that push, then they start trusting in the system. They start trusting into the program.
Mm.
So that program is so good that the recidivism rate is 0.003, and the
Mm.
the the point three is because of parole violations. However, when we sat in that circle, we laughed, we cried. I'm not talking about cried. I'm talking about guys that was calling and crying along with us. Sharing their history, sharing what they went through at home. Because whatever's being said there stays confidential. So you're not gonna be out in the yard or in the gym talking about you've been molested as a kid and now you're a grown man. You know how shameful that is for any man to speak about what they went
Mm.
through in life. And
Mm.
in that classroom, people share stuff that I was like, wow, I really didn't know this person until he opened his mouth and started speaking. You know, they always say that get to know a person when he opens his mouth and shit falls out of his mouth. But guess what? When a person has sentiments that fall out of his mouth is when you really start knowing that person. And these are
Mhm.
things that we encounter with this group. So I became part of what is called group leader, and I also became part of the steering committee, which in the movie they explain about that as well. So I was part of the steering committee. So I was able to detect who was in there to make it or who was in there to fake it to make it. Because let's keep it real. If a lot of women came in that program and guys was gravitated to that program for they could be around women.
Mm.
I don't knock them for that. But at the end of the day, we took that program serious because anybody who came there, you had to participate. You had to get in front of 40 men and civilians and act out, do improvs, and do a whole bunch of stuff. Whether it's for acting like an animal, acting like a woman, talking like a man, talking like a woman, talking like a child, talking like an animal, whatever. So you had to do that in order to participate. And it
Mhm.
was no, oh, you're my favorite, you're not doing that. No, everybody ate a piece of that bread. And we
Mm.
was able to build that relationship and the trust. Because now if you have an issue as a regular member and I'm part of the steering committee and you have a personal problem, you can also talk to me on the side about certain things that's going on in your life. So it wasn't only about us doing theater, playing the piano, learning how to play guitar, because it's more than that. It's a lot of things you learning how to write, the book that we wrote together, that we collaborated on as well. So it was many things that we did together as a team. And when you do stuff as a team, people feel good about themselves because a lot of people never did anything with their family and friends outside of prison. You
Mhm.
know, it was either getting high, trying to make money, being in the corner selling drugs, and these are things that we did while we was in there. Besides the other programs that I took as well, which was one of them was called PAC, which is Prisoners for Calculation Transition, where we sat down with Yale students and they sat down with us, and we spoke about everyday living, about social norms, about spiritual enhancement. We spoke about many things that better yourselves in here and getting ready to get out in society and impress people what we learning in that classroom.
Do you think so with a program like that, right? And this new, I've been trying to push you to do this, the injustice peer certification with this new idea of, peer support in the justice system and programs that push for vulnerability and healing. Do you think that we could turn this thing around eventually?
Oh, definitely, because when you take a monthly statement, this is how you start it. When you take a monthly statement of what I earn on a weekly basis, which is $2.37, making license plates, and you show them a payroll of how much money you make as on a weekly basis, where you don't have to worry about the next drug dealer shooting you, the next drug dealer robbing you, or police arresting you. You show them the pros and cons on how this you making while you're in prison, and they're telling you what to do, when to shit, when to eat, and what to look for, as opposed to you paying your bills, coming home, you got a girlfriend, you got a wife, you got kids, whatever it is. Which one would you choose? This one or this one? There's no questioning that you want to choose this one, because at the end of the day, if you sit down and you start speaking to people and showing them the effects that it can cause, not only to the community, your family, the victim's family as well, you'd be like, wait a minute, I don't want to go through that. And I told this to a kid one time. When you get sick and your mother brings you soup, she put Vicks on your chest, under your nose, on your forehead, and she gives you NyQuil, DayQuil. When you go to prison and you get sick, you ain't getting none of that shit. You're going to smell the toilet and the piss is coming out of you. You're under those blankets for 3 or 4 days. They're not giving you no Tylenol. They're not giving you any of that. They're giving you some pill that you don't even know what it is.
But some people get that at home.
And
that's why some people would rather doesn't sound good rolling off the tongue. Some people's home life is worse than jail.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, and those are the ones that don't have that push. They don't have that person in their ear talking to them, because, and I saw that the other day, when I was walking the street, kid was like, man, fuck that shit, yo, And I looked at the kid, I said, you know how hard it is, man, to be in prison, man? And how easy it is to be out here and stay out here? Mm-hmm. And I just kept on walking. So he stood there looking at me, like thinking. Sometimes it's just a little trigger that you might give a person. And you're right. There are people that's like that. They rather be like that.
And sometimes it just follows them, right? It's because it's in their mind. It's in their mind and their heart and their soul, the pain. And so whether they're out here on the streets with us or in there, they're tortured. They're tortured. And so whereas we're changing things in the system, we need to change some things out here in society. We really need to change some things out here in society. I do have a very unpopular opinion about, I actually got into a little spiff with this woman. There was this woman who, I'm very careful about sharing stuff on my platform, in the media, right? Because the media doesn't always tell the truth. So allegedly, this woman had some children, and her situation was dire. She was not, I guess not. She was about to get evicted, and she was just going through a lot of adversity. She had reached out to family, telling them about her mental state and where she was. Right? She was not feeling great. Life was life and she did not have the tools in order to maintain. Right? Her cries for help were ignored. And as someone who's been through the system, right? I've gone to HRA and have had to bawl cry for them to give me and my children food stamps to eat. because some worker decided that, you know, my family could wait. And she decided that, you know, we could wait 45 days or whatever many days when I'm piecing together $2 and $3 to get oodles and noodles for them to share. And sometimes not eating myself. And this is not a struggle story, you know, that's on repeat. It just is what it is, right? And, you know, the system will tell you that you're the problem. When in fact, I think every system is a problem. Every system. The justice system, the educational system,
I agree with that.
financial system, the social service system, all the systems are not working in our favor. So now when you have, if whether somebody's before they go in or when they come out, our society is not prepared. Now, there are so many programs. I've heard about so many programs that are out there. There are so many programs that are out there doing great work, doing some amazing work. You know, you have a lot of peer groups. You have a lot of groups that are, you know, here to like shepherd people through reintegrating into society. But until we realize the emotional damage that our society is doing, and the perpetuation of our criminal justice system, our educational system, and all the other systems that we encounter, we're going to continue in this cycle, right? Yes, Eliot, you and I made it out. You and I, you know, we got the grit it takes to surpass this. But until we continue conversations like this about what it really is, and it's like, you know, come on. So this woman, she went on to drown her children.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's a murderer, right? According to society's standards. She's now a murderer. And this woman says to me, you know, everyone can't claim to have mental health issues and commit a crime or something in that nature, right? And I'm like, wait, pause. She's like, that woman killed her children. She just needed more assistance. That was basically her stance. Probably not her exact words, but her stance was, if this woman had got more social assistance, not assistance in the mental health system, but more help from social services, she probably wouldn't have killed her children. That she didn't need medication and all this and that, right? My stance on that was that why couldn't it have been a both and? Why couldn't she have needed more social assistance, financial assistance, and needed to talk to someone to get some help to stay balanced, to deal with the trauma of her poverty, right? And her adversity. Why does it have to be an either or? Either she's having a mental health crisis or she's having a financial crisis. Because I know there were many times when I was having a both and. I was having a financial crisis and I was having a mental health crisis. And if we continue on with thinking that someone does something like that and it's because they don't have any money, we have seen cases of people with money also have mental health crises. So clearly there's a both and in this world. And so when talking about mental health, do you feel like the system is willing to have a real conversation about mental health? Like being someone now working with individuals who are integrating back to society, like from the stories you hear, do you feel like the system is ready?
No, I believe it's not ready. I believe it's not even ready with people out in society. That's the things you see going on now with people assaulting people in the streets for no reason, choking somebody with a belt for no reason,
Wow, that's
raping them,
wild.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then a couple of days ago, a kid gets shot, and the family talking about, oh, that he has mental ill issue. He came out the officer with a knife and then grabbed another one, got taken. No, you know, so a lot of people is being denied the proper medical care, and they are also being turned around because they may not be financially fit to take care of what they want to take care in reference to medical bills and psychiatrics and all this and all that. No, you know, however, my opinion is they want that to happen.
Mhm.
That is the reason why you have a balancing scale, because you need to keep a certain amount of people incarcerated and a certain amount of people not incarcerated.
Mhm.
And right away they use a justification. Or not, he's trying to use the insanity plea, or he's insane, but he's not. He's faking it. All of a sudden, this is going on. But that all boils down to is statistics. This is what it
Mhm.
is. It's all a statistic thing, you know. And when they do that, it's making them look like they're doing a job, but in all actuality, we doing our jobs for them.
Mhm. You know, one of the things I believe that, we need to, as a community, we need to be more involved in keeping out and sustaining, right? Um, we need to really take hold of our community members. We need to take hold of our families. I hate this idea of, oh, it ain't, but when I was younger, even though I didn't like it and didn't agree with it, the neighbor could check you if you was out of line, right? Or your mama's friend that saw you out of line could check you, right? And I'm not saying whooping nobody's child. My mom used to take kids on the side. She used to whoop me for sure. But she used to take kids on the side, and talk to them, She did. She would really, she one thing, it was so funny. My mom used to say, I don't understand why children, but they trusted her. But my mom used to be like, come here, let me hit you in your head. And kids would come to her. They would literally walk to her, you
Yeah.
know, because they trusted her, right? Um, and we need that, right? But now you say something to somebody's child, they ready to fight. They want to argue. Don't say nothing to my child. Ain't nothing. I've had a friend who I was close with, a friend I was tight with. We've been friends since middle school, high school. I said something to her daughter in her presence, and she chewed my head up. And it was something as simple as she wanted to get like a tattoo on her finger that said "fuck you" or something like that. And I said, well, you don't want to do that right now. You're still young. Branding yourself like that, you haven't yet decided what your career is going to be. This could be a barrier for you. You might not want to do that. And her mom said, she can do what she want to do. Who are you to tell her she can't get a tattoo? I said, oh, I'm nobody. I'm sorry. You know, and it's like I can see if someone's trying to hurt, because it's like a catch-22. You also don't want your child trusting and going off with just anybody, right? I'm not blind to what's going on in the world. People are taking advantage of people and children. They are molesting them. They are doing unsanitary things to children, right? I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're having real conversations about community, if we're placing ourselves, positioning ourselves authentically and trusting in spaces where we can spot those type of folks, we can build stronger community, right?
Oh,
When we
definitely.
when we build this discernment, right? Because it's really children don't know who to trust, because mommy either cussing them out or the person is actually really a hard person, right? So you don't know. Children don't know who to trust.
You're
I have
right.
been betrayed by individuals that I trusted as an adult. So I totally that were adults that I saw as, my uncles and aunts and things like that, that I saw as, an extension of my parents. I was betrayed by them. I did get betrayed. But I think if we, and I'm not mad at anybody, because that's traumatizing too. Because some of us that were born in the 80s and 90s did experience that, where our moms trusted every neighbor and person, and some of those people took advantage of that trust. So I get how parents are now reacting to that trauma or responding to that trauma by not allowing their children to, just engage with anyone. But where do we find the balance? Because not having that balance is hurting us. It's really hurting us.
Yeah, us in our community, we just have to be more organized and get together and come into the same way we got together in prison with a whole bunch of grown men in the room, which these are men. The same way they could get together with parents, brothers and sisters in a room on a weekly basis to find out exactly what's going on, what needs to be done, what should we do, because we have the power.
Right.
If
Right.
we give the authorities and and the politicians, we the one who vote them in. We the one who have the power. We the one who controls everything. If we allow ourselves to do better in that way and communicate better, then everything will be much better because you'll be able to see a problem before it occurs. You'll be able
Right.
to detect that,
Right.
you know?
And there was one time, I saw someone, thank you everybody who's commenting in the chat box. Thank you for sharing your stories and being vulnerable. Um, there was a time I had a friend who was a licensed psychologist, and I told her, I was like, I would love to, because the libraries have free space. Every library has free space, community rooms that individuals can use. As long as you make it open to the public, you can invite anyone in, right? And this wasn't a business venture for me. This was really connected to the community. And so I had asked her, I was like, hey, let's put together a support group, right? I wanted her expertise, around this issue, or, her support because, she was considered a professional in the field because she was licensed. I said, let's start a support group in, the libraries. And the response I got was, oh, I wouldn't know how to bill Medicaid for that. And I was just so frustrated. I don't think that she's a bad person. I think she, was probably new to her profession and she's trying to make a living for herself, right? I get that. But for me, it was more about that's not gonna be what's needed. What's needed and wanted is a free space to be able to come and talk and be vulnerable. There's so many people who are wreaking havoc on kids and adults because they haven't been heard. Their hurt hasn't been healed. And so how they're coping, they're hurting some more people. They're raping people, they're killing people, they're beating people, right? And I know that it's the unpopular opinion that someone that's doing something like that, oh, they're not, everybody's insane. I can't live in a world where I believe someone wants to just go around raping and killing people. I can't live in that world. I can't sit still in a world where I believe that that's just it. Like, that's it. And I'm not saying that everybody who commits a crime should be able to plead insanity. Some people need to pay their debt to society or whatever that means. And so I have like I said, it's a very unpopular opinion, but seeing it so much, you see it so much. Everybody bad. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, come on, like something is going on. Something is going on. And most people call me an idealist, and I get it, but I'm always going to be a forward thinker. I'm always going to be pushing for the majority. Okay. I'm always going to be pushing for the minority as well, because I am a minority. I've
Yeah,
experienced
definitely.
I've experienced it. I've experienced it. I've seen it, touched it, smelt it.
Yeah.
The trauma and the horrors that can come out of just being and existing in a space. Growing up in a community, I've seen dead bodies in front of my door. Nobody don't think that affects you. You don't come off unscathed
Yeah,
from that.
definitely. Yeah.
The smell of death at 9, 7. Come on. And
Yeah.
some people see worse things than me. And that leads me to this one point about so now they're doing mental health first aid with police officers or law enforcement.
Yeah.
Do you think that that is going to perpetuate or provoke or invoke change? Let's say that. Let's say invoke.
The only way I will see that it will work and it will invoke change will be somebody needs to have lived experiences. You just
Mm-hmm.
cannot just utilize somebody that's went to school and lives in the suburbs or never experienced anything that another person had experienced. When
Mm-hmm.
you try to correct something, you need to have someone that has experienced something in life that pertains to that particular issue. You just cannot just throw anybody in there. You
Mm-hmm.
know, if you didn't have no live experiences, I believe that person shouldn't be involved in trying to help somebody. You know, he
Right.
could talk to you about certain things, but he can't talk to you about what that person may experience or seen happen in his life. Because at the end of the day, it's no relation. How
Yeah.
are you supposed to trust somebody that if he's talking to you and I go, have you ever did that before? Have you ever experienced this? And they just look at you and say, oh, but it doesn't matter. It does matter, because how am I supposed to listen to you and respect you for what you telling me when you never experienced anything that I've experienced in my life? You know?
I get anxiety seeing police officers. Now I'm a tough cookie. Like I get anxiety, but I'm not scared of them, right? Because I am someone who knows my rights. But you see the power dynamic change when they're in your presence, right? Regardless of how tough you are, how intelligent you are, you see the power dynamic change. You see them assert authority, even when you're not doing anything wrong. It's almost like they come with the energy of that you committed a crime, and you sitting there like, I didn't even do that. Why am I anxious right now? So I can imagine, you know, you know, somebody put handcuffs on me right now, I'm gonna have a whole serious panic attack. Okay. And I often, one of the reasons why what's kept me from, putting myself in a position to get arrested is that thought that I know I'm gonna freak out and I may not make it. I may not make it to the jail, right? Because we've seen over and over where law enforcement hasn't handled that well, and people die because they think that this person is being resistant. I'm having a panic attack, sir. You're putting handcuffs on my head. My life is flashing before my eyes. I'm worried about my kids, my cat, my job, everything. I'm worrying about everything. I'm worried about who else is in there. I'm worried about, how this is going to affect like my life. You're just putting handcuffs on my wrist. This is an everyday occurrence for you. For me, my life just flashed before my eye, and all you did was put metal on my wrist. I am freaking out, sir. I don't know what it is that you want from me, but right now I can't comprehend. I want out. I don't want to deal. And if somebody's in that position, if somebody is having a panic attack, someone is freaking out, like they're seeing it as resistance, they're putting people in chokeholds, they're killing people because someone is clearly not processing what's happening to them in the right way. Of course, I'm going to ask questions. What's going on, officer? Why are you doing this? What's happening? I didn't do anything. Where are we going? What to do? Coupled with the mindset, coupled with the idea that they could shoot you and you're going to die. But your body is not allowing you to stop because you are scared. And so forget if someone has a mental health condition, right? Because we don't know. Everybody can have one. I think we're all one panic attack away from having a mental health condition, okay? So when they say we're going to give them mental, I've taken that class, and that class does not give information on how to handle a mental health crisis or even how to identify it. So, and then I know some individuals that are teaching a class and they said there is no buy-in. They're sitting there just doing it because they have to.
Yeah.
Not because they're really absorbing the information and wanting to do better. So how do we come out of this?
Yeah, that's see, when it comes to everybody's different by all aspects. Everybody's different. Everybody handles every situation different. And like you just said right now, I could be having a panic attack and be suffering from whatever, and I just black out.
Even if I'm not having a mental health crisis, I'm freaking out. I'm telling you.
You resisting? Did that make you a bad person? No. Yeah, you're right. It's difficult for you to even try to confront a person that's going through that in any way, any shape or form, without not knowing what's actually occurring in their life. In the blinking of an eye, anything could just get lost in 1 second. So
exactly.
I understand exactly what you mean by that because I've seen it.
And
I've seen it.
I've got, so one time me and my ex, we were riding on a motorcycle, right? He was going to take me to the train station. So he gave me the helmet and he only had one. Now, the police, they pulled us over. They said, no, you can't ride like that, blah, blah. So I got off the bike and, no, they had to make a big to-do about it. No, can I see your licenses? Oh, can I do this? Oh, can I do that? They handcuffed him. For what? They handcuffed him, said, oh, because we have to also worry about our safety. Safety from what? were two unarmed individuals. We're on a motorcycle. It takes you a bit, it takes you way, I mean, even though once you get on a motorcycle, you're going to move pretty fast, but it's going to take you some time to pick the bike up, get on the bike. So how fast are we moving away from you? So it's not like we're at a flight risk at this moment. Why do you need to handcuff? And then it was two officers. The officer then tells him to sit on the ground. He's like, no, I'm not going to sit on the ground. So they handcuff him and put him on the hood of the car. So then the officer tells me to sit on the ground. So I'm actually not going to sit on the ground. I'm going to stand up. And so now they're irritated. But what about the situation that I need to sit on the dirty ground for?
Yeah.
How are you threatened by 5'3" self? I didn't even have a purse on me. I don't like pocketbooks. So where was the weapon that I was supposed to attack you with? Like, come on. And then they say, okay, y'all good to go. So we packing up, getting ready to go. Another officer comes. And I tell her, I said, listen, and I told him, I said, anytime you get pulled over by a police officer, get their badge number and get their name.
Mm-hmm.
And so as they're talking to me, I'm looking at names. And I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. Right? Asking for badge number. Okay. Mm-hmm. Right? So then when the second police officer comes to talk to us, she's like, she's loud. So clearly she had a panic attack or something. She's loud. I said, ma'am, what you call? She was like, what do you want to be arrested? I said, for what though? For asking you to calm down? That's a crime? Because you're yelling and I don't even understand why you're yelling. And I was like, I was trying to explain to you that officer, I forget his name, bleep, 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 just told us to go ahead. He just go, well, I can't just take your word for it. I said, well, you can go ahead on the radio and page them and ask. I said, it was two officers here. I gave her the officer's name. She was like, you hold on a minute. And she went in the car and she asked for their name. And then she came out and she wanted to give this lecture. And I said, respectfully, ma'am, if we are able to go, we would like to go. Like, I don't want to hear your speech because right now you've disrespected me. You have further made me, humiliated me in my community. And you're yelling and screaming for what? Now you want to have a heart-to-heart? I don't want to have a heart-to-heart.
For no reason.
Yeah, I'm done with the heart-to-hearts. You go go on live or something and tell the internet about your heart-to-heart, about what my situation was. And it's just like, I find myself to be very level-headed at most times. But in that moment, like, he didn't have the same skills that I have, right? He hasn't been taught the way I've been taught. He doesn't have the information that I have. So he was already like, if I wasn't there, it would have went ugly.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been ugly. Because he's being combative, but he doesn't have the right lingo. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm asking for badge numbers and names and precincts and what did you pull us over for, officer? He's like just being combative. And so do you think, and I know we're about to wrap soon, do you think educating the community on how to deal with law enforcement can help in this process of keeping us safe?
Yeah, it's funny you said that because we had a meeting with community affairs, which is part of the NYPD, and they have actually people that are from our neighborhoods, our community, that are employed by community affairs as NYPD officers, and they've been interacting more with people like us that have the lived experience and give them certain structures on how to handle certain things. Mm-hmm. And they have been very helpful in that manner. Mm-hmm. They actually walk with us like they.
You're freezing up a little bit. All right, but so yeah, okay, get back. You were freezing up a little bit.
But they are being respected because they offer the same trust, because now they're saying, oh, these guys is around, these guys live in the same neighborhood. So when you do have the same way, like I said earlier, when we all in that same, be more looked at. People see us together and they be like, oh, damn, We could trust these guys now because these guys from the community are people that actually live within 20, 15-mile radius in Brooklyn and are walking the streets of Brooklyn asking people everything's all right, everything's okay. So they're building this trust. So when you have officers like that is actually doing that through the community affairs, which is it's still NYPD, but it's a different section. Like you have uh the detectives, you have regular NYPD, auxiliary. These are actually NYPD community affairs, but they are from our neighborhoods that are actually interacting with people in the community, and that's helping a lot. So some things can be changed, and it can be done that way.
Awesome. I want to thank you, Eliot, for sharing this conversation with me tonight. I hope you enjoyed your time with me. I want to thank everybody on Instagram who were listening in and chiming into the chat box. I want to thank everyone who joined us tonight on our Zoom. Thank you so much for sharing your insight. We definitely have to continue to have these conversations and getting the information out in the world. You know, we are wrapping up Mental Health Awareness Month, but I want people to not just use the month of May to promote or basically talk about mental health. Everyone has a mental health, right? That mental health is health. Everyone. I don't care if you have a diagnosis. I don't care if you have a condition. We all have to maintain and sustain our mental health. And with that, I would like to always give a call to action. If you haven't already done so, open a conversation with your family about this issue. Open a conversation with your children about this issue and see where you all are. What do you stand for? And how are you going to contribute to community and our society to invoke change and see everyone live healthy and happy? That is it for Monday Night Chat with SK. Eliot, any final
Happiness
words
and
before
joy is
we
where
wrap?
everything is at.
What was that?
Yeah,
Say it
thank you
again.
everybody for listening, and stay focused, stay strong. We all go through struggles in life. It's how we overcome them. It's what makes us better, makes us stronger. And I'm a prime example of that. You can never give up on life. You can never give up on yourself, and have people believe in you just like you believe in yourself, and keep moving forward and stay positive as always.
All right. Thank you, Eliot.
All right, Shamona, have a good night.
Good night.
You're welcome. We'll talk later.
We'll see you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right.